It's time to get sexy on Secular Sexuality.
Hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality. I am Megan, and with me is my co-host.
Howdy, I'm Christy.
And today is our launch. How are you feeling about that?
Hey, I am super excited. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks now for a lot of people who are close to the ACA, and we're really excited to be out there wide and to get to meet all of y'all and show you what we've been working on.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff. Today's going to be more an introduction to us and some fun shenanigans we have planned. Not too much serious stuff today, but that's not to say that we won't get serious at some point.
Yeah, so what then is us if we're introducing us, right? I mean, definitely shenanigans. Mentioned that, covered that.
Yes.
Gonna be some shenanigans.
Yes, for sure. I do believe we are also discussing some educational side of things, especially for those people who are coming out of religion. Sex is not necessarily something they were told much about or were told not to do.
Yeah, we're kind of not allowed to talk about it, right? We're allowed to use it in our advertising for everything from shampoo and gum and whatever the hell else.
M&Ms.
Right, exactly. Strong sexuality. That green M&M, you're not wrong.
It is sexy.
You're not wrong. That is a
Yes.
sexy M&M.
It is.
Welcome to
Hi.
getting to know us, by the way. Now
Yes.
you know a little bit more about me than you maybe wanted to right out the gates, but yeah, it's a sexy M&M.
It is.
So we're here to talk about sexuality in a way that we don't often get to.
Right. And also to touch on those topics that, either people coming out of religion haven't had someone to, talk to them about, tell them it's okay, just expand your horizons a little, or just in general have some fun and maybe laugh at our expense.
Hopefully not just at our expense, but bring it on.
I'm
Bring it
willing
on.
to take a few laughs on the chin, if it helps kind of move the message along.
Yeah, you don't grow up with this face without getting a little used to taking some hits.
That's very true. So today we have a few of our very well-known hosts coming in to talk to us today about what they think of the show. So Mr. Matt Dillahunty.
You may know him from the show that just finished, or the internet in general.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Extra sexy.
Extra sexy?
Extra sexy.
I'm dressed like a pirate today.
The pirate
You
outfit
are
is
extra
awesome.
sexy.
It's totally working. Anybody need a little cap minimum?
Captain Morgan making?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is coming through the mics, but I'm definitely hearing a low-key groan from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
audience.
yeah.
That was just me? Want to make sure our web audience is well aware of the groan.
Yeah, I'm just at the right age where I can. I still can't quite get away with dad jokes, but I'm going to make them anyway. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's the nature of a dad joke. Like, nobody's really getting away with it, but that's kind of how it works.
I hope so. Hey, so congratulations! I'm so happy that you guys are doing this live, or the live premiere.
Yes.
Even though you're both clearly experienced with having done other episodes beforehand.
Just a few.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us on and for joining us here for ours.
I have no idea why I'm here. Why anybody would want me to comment on sex and sex stuff at all. So,
Well, in the secular community, you are something of a pillar.
oh, I thought you were going to say sex symbol. I was like, gosh.
You just get that a lot, huh?
It's nonstop. It's,
Sex symbol and a pillar.
Don't know how difficult it is to be, it's the bald head thing.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Sexy bald captain. Hey, captain. Oh my gosh, I didn't even plan
From
it.
now on.
But yeah, one of the things that's been great, and Mandisa and I were on earlier for the Atheist Experience. We were talking about this, how the nature of conventions has changed. And while I will say that the kind of we're going to give a lecture, the content of the lectures is what has changed more than the format. You know,
Yep.
in the early days, or at least my early days of being involved in the movement, it was a lot more of the, we're going to pat ourselves in the back for not believing in God, or, you know, whatever else.
Being so evolved beyond that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the narrative, or was the narrative.
Yeah, and it was, you know, very, here, today we're going to talk about the teleological argument and the things that are wrong with it and stuff like this, and you just won't believe what these theists are saying. And then as the movement broadened, there were, of course, the infighting in the movement of, oh, no, it's mission creep if we start going near these other things. Okay, yeah, you can stay away from these other topics if you're afraid of mission creep, and you will stay this small book-learning community.
That's not really helping anybody.
No.
You know,
And if you want to broaden
be able
things,
to argue with theists doesn't really do a lot to change the world.
it's part of a person. It's not a complete person. And if you
Right.
don't recognize it, we have a broader community with people. In many cases, I loved, Darryl Ray and I have been friends for years, and the fact that he was on the forefront of, hey, at this conference, let's talk about what religion has done to repress people sexually. Let's have frank, conversations about sex, and get people to go, hey, it's, we're not talking about something that's, well, it can be dirty if you do it right.
It can be fun.
Yes,
And-
and it's also not something, it's like everybody poops.
Yeah, they made a child's book about that.
Yes, and an episode of Family Guy. Getting people to realize that what we're talking, it doesn't mean that you have to go flinging feces at people, but getting people to recognize that you can have a conversation about something that we all do, we all know, or not all. There are exceptions.
But
I
we're
don't want to
all
exclude
affected by it,
Yes.
regardless of our
We
orientation.
are all the product of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Sure.
But to pretend that something that's so fundamental from a biological perspective, from an evolutionary perspective, from just human social interaction, even for my friends who are asexual, non-sexual, who aren't interested in this, this is a part of reality that is still fundamental to all of us and how we define things. And you can't have those conversations. You can't have conversations about gender identity and expression, or you can't have conversations about various kinks and other stuff if you're afraid to talk about sex at all. And all it does is keep the kind of often religiously motivated oppression in place. Because if you can't talk about, this is a dinner table, we shouldn't talk about religion or politics.
Right.
Yes, talk about the freaking politics.
Sex,
because if
religion,
you don't, you
politics
get
are kind of
crappy
the three.
politicians.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I think we've probably all been in those situations where someone who either is working their way out of religion or just came out of the religion, and there's still so many hang-ups and so much repression there that they don't even know, like, the first step to take. They don't know even, they're scared of their own shadow regarding sex and sexuality and how it relates to them and how it relates to the world, because it relates to all of us and it relates to the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, it's absolutely ubiquitous in our culture. I mean, we're talking about it not just in terms of where people came from and whether we're all doing it or most of us are doing or whatever that might look like. We're all affected by it in the same way I said, our M&Ms are sexualized, our gum is sexualized, our shampoo is sexualized. So to have that big secret and to never feel comfortable actually having a conversation with it just seems madness.
Yeah, my views on this, granted, I'm not going to show up here on episode 1 and run through all of my kinks or hang-ups or anything else, but it's interesting to watch. I'm a very kind of critical, self-reflective person, so I'm constantly analyzing why I think what I think.
The examine life.
And when it comes to, when I was in the Navy, I was in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and there were some people, everybody knew, this guy's gay, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell really only applied to admissions, but basically we had a guy who was forcefully outed by somebody who was mad at him about something, and we had to kick him out of the Navy under the policy. And it was very frustrating for me because, I was raised a Southern Baptist. Homosexuality is a sin. Homosexuals are an abomination. They deserve to be put to death. Not by me, but by God. This is what God thinks of them.
Right.
And
I
yet,
would never be such a cruel person. I'll just
Yeah.
follow
Just
blindly
you'll
the
let
orders
God take care of that.
of this loving, benevolent
I'm not
dictator.
saying you're evil. God is.
Right.
Thank you so much. But no, I met some guys. Some of the best guys that ever worked for me were gay. And that is one of those things. I love confounding people's expectations. And so For example, I have family members who think that I'm working for the devil and leading people to hell, and yet they know me and they know I'm a good person and they watch how I treat people and charity and, and that's really confusing for them. And similarly, if you've been taught that, homosexuals are an abomination, and then you actually meet and hang out with homosexuals and you find they're not abominations. This guy was way better than the dude who tried to out him. I mean, he's a piece of crap who was just vengeful, and this guy's just trying to have a career. That sort of thing changed, but there was a moment of realization for me about how much I had changed, and that was when Don Baker married his husband Elton. Because I'd already been incredibly sex positive. I was already, when you're a kid and you, for me, if I would see two guys kissing, it'd be kind of like, and I thought, we all know about the naturalistic fallacy that, comes up all the time. Well, it's not natural, as if natural is the criteria by which
some standard, right?
It's also false that it's not natural, but that's for another time. But at the end of the day, you take that kind of revulsion and you think, oh, this is just my natural response to it. So clearly I'm, at a minimum, I'm not gay,
Right.
but maybe I'm appropriately revulsed by this. And I had already been fairly sex positive. I still score a Kinsey 0, but that's a problem with the test. That test is antiquated and flawed and doesn't take trans issues in. Nothing. It's a garbage test now. But when Don and Elton got married and they jumped the broom and stood up there and kissed, I did
everybody.
And immediately I went, hang on, two guys just kissed in front of me, and 25 years ago this would have been, ugh, that's gross,
Right.
that's disgusting. And now it was, aw. And I was like, yeah, you have changed. And by the way, I still got a lot of stuff, I still got a lot of baggage and things to fix, but being aware of that change was incredibly important. And that and some conversations with Daryl and plenty of other people in the community kind of woke me up on a number of things to where I know more about who I am now today with regard to sex than I ever thought I could have. And there's far more than I ever anticipated there could be about it.
Right. When you're told that there are basically three options, the right one, the wrong one, and the one we don't talk about,
Yes.
Or some version of that, you don't necessarily feel like you have to do a lot of self-exploration. And so you just sort of assume that these labels all apply to you. And as you get older and more open-minded, you might realize that, oh, I actually am super into that. Had no idea.
Or, hey, I don't know if that'll be my thing, but let me try it once and see what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank
That's
you.
the M&M's thing.
Yeah, green. Yes.
So you guys, I'm assuming you're done with me now because you guys have a parade of guests who are way sexier.
We do.
We
We've got
do.
some wonderful people. None of them, are as sexy as the captain, naturally. Before we head out, we wanted to take a moment and ask you, do you have just an absolute terrible worst date story?
That you would feel comfortable sharing on air.
You're giving me a look like, yeah, I've got a terrible date story, but I don't know if I want to tell it.
I have a bunch of stories, and I'm pretty open. I mean, I don't tend to hide stuff, and there's people here who've met me for the first time who had conversations like, wow, I didn't think I wanted to know that much about you. But I want to I want to get a feel for the show before I go jumping all over the place. I will say, while I have some stories of potentially bad dates and things like that, I don't know that I look at dating, I don't know how weird or different I am, because for me, like, I was single for a lot of years, I was married for a few years, I'm getting divorced, all of that relationship stuff is independent to me from sex, even though I may in fact be demisexual, I may in fact be the type of person that can't have a sexual relationship without a romantic attachment. I'm not completely sure, still exploring stuff. But yet I can separate the two in my head.
Yep.
So it's possible for me to date someone in a somewhat romantic sense and not have it be about sex at all.
Right, absolutely.
So sex and romance I can separate in some of those senses. So there's maybe somebody, and there actually is somebody recently, we go out, we have a good time, we could lay naked in bed all night and not actually have sex, and it's just, cuddling and romance and, having fun. And then there's other times where it's just about sex. Most of the really bad, embarrassing ones come when one of the two of us is confused about what kind of date we're on.
Yeah, exactly.
And recently there was, I thought I was just having a good time with somebody, taking them out to a magic show, getting some dinner, that kind of thing. And they had
By the way, a date with you sounds really nice. There's dinner and a show. I mean.
Yeah, well, I go to Esther's Follies all the time. It's like,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because if I'm dating somebody and they don't like Esther's Follies, I don't want a second
it's a
date
real
anyway.
quick litmus test. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah. No, it was Esther's Follies. Whoever was there last night,
Absolute
it was
shout-out.
amazeballs. Yeah.
But we had a slightly different perception of what was going on and what the nature of the relationship was. And there were a number of other things that complicated this. And my wife and I had a happy divorce party. And this person happened to be there, and I won't go into all the details, and made a bit of a scene. And so it wasn't necessarily the date that turned out bad, but it was what followed the date afterwards.
Sure.
Right.
And it was a little weird, but, There have been plenty of other awkward things. I will say this, just for all the people who think they know everything about me. I was in the Navy, and in boot camp I was in Orlando. And every weekend for the entire year and some change that I was there, even though I was a fundamentalist Christian who had very repressive views about sex in general, I was at the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday night and every Saturday night and participated in things with the cast. And yeah, I'm not nearly as square as some people might think, and yet I still come out of Kenzie Zero and fairly vanilla. But maybe some other time we'll go into the things that are wrong with that.
At a certain point, you decided to stop dreaming it and just be it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Everybody has baggage. For sure. I think that's one of the reasons we're here. To
Absolutely.
At least try and
That's what we're here for.
Let's unpack
get
that
through
stuff.
some of it. Yeah.
Unpack it, throw it around the room, refold some of it, keep the good baggage, get rid of it.
Yeah. Leave some of it at the baggage claim or whatever that song is.
Yes. But I'm not going to be giving out dirty secrets in my first appearance on the show.
So tune in next time we have Matt on for a collection of dirty laundry.
Ooh, we shall air it all. Or
Awesome.
not.
All right. Well,
I will
thank you
leave
so
room
much.
for
I
next.
really
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
inviting me. I'm so thrilled you guys are doing this. I love what the ACA is doing. I love the fact that there's more shows. I love the fact that we are approaching the point where the ACA is going to be the gold standard for addressing the entire human, not just the person who wants to argue religion, not just the person. We've got family shows coming up, we've got sex shows coming up. I love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see this grow. In part because while everybody doesn't feel the same way about sex, you're right. Everybody's going to want to talk about it and hear about it in some sense. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, hey, thank you
you
so much.
Of course.
And we are going to take a moment to show you a clip from an interview I did with Dr. Daryl Ray, the founder of this show.
Hey, Megan.
How you doing?
I'm really doing good because of this actual show. So there you go.
Show?
Yeah.
We are leading up to the launch, or I should say relaunch,
Yes, please.
of Secular Sexuality, which of course you founded yourself along with Recovering from Religion.
Right.
For Secular Sexuality, how do you feel about the relaunch?
Well, I'm loving it. You guys contacted me. I think you noticed I had fallen off in my production. I'd done this for 3 years, and I didn't know when I started a podcast how much work it was. Mm-hmm. And I got really into it. I loved it. I loved doing it. But my obligations to Recover from Religion are pretty overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And my obligations to the Secular Therapy Project are still significant, although we have handed that off to other people. You know, I have a life to live. I'm retired, and I like to travel. So I've been to Africa, and I've been to South America for months at a time. I don't have time for a podcast anymore. So when you guys contacted me, Mark Vanderbrake, and asked me about it, I said, well, I'd love to find out what we could do together. And within a few days, we had figured out what would work. And the main thing was I'm turning this over to you guys. Mm-hmm. I'm remaining an advisor for you.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to be an occasional host, but I don't have to take responsibility for the whole damn thing. So I am thrilled about it. And I'm thrilled because I think this is a subject that we need to keep talking about, secular sexuality. Mm-hmm. And I'm thrilled about it because you guys are going to do it in a different way. I've been watching how you're developing the format. Being video is going to add a dimension, of course. I think, of course, the audio is. And there's so many aspects that I still haven't explored, didn't explore.
Right.
And you've got a feminine side. And I was just, I'm just an old white guy. So you can bring a whole new aspect that I can't possibly do. And I think that'll be valuable.
Hey, we're back. That was a smooth transition. All right.
Sometimes the transition isn't smooth, but the ride along way is still enjoyable. Something
This
like
is
that.
true.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jamie, of
Sex.
course, is here to introduce the concept of the bad sex pun
Yes.
to sexuality, which is a mainstay here, clearly.
I jumped the gun or shot that load a little early. So it's fine.
Excellent. Great work. Great work. That's why we have
Thank
you here.
That's what I like to hear.
So, among other reasons, we have you two sharing a mic, and we're all nice, gathered closely around this table.
Yeah.
Is we wanted to talk to you guys about what you think of the Secular Sexuality show coming up, like now.
I think it's great. I'm a big supporter.
I'm actually really excited. I found through talking to people that sexual hangups are among the last to go when it comes to dealing with indoctrination. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
And being able to address a lot of those things is incredibly important. And I know that it took me a very, very, very long time to even realize that there was an issue to begin with. And so I'm thrilled that y'all are here. I've seen you doing your early shows and prepping and all of that, and I've been laughing my butt off, and I'm really, really excited that we get to share it with the world. So thank you.
And now for Jamie.
Well,
Say more nice things about us, please.
Yes.
This is why we're all here.
Yeah.
This is why everyone has come to join us.
I mean, how could I refuse? The sex appeal is just too great. No. Yeah, I got thrown off because he said he was going to laugh his butt off, and I was like desperately searching for a pun there, and then I had to think of something
You get
complimentary.
too distracted, yeah.
Yeah, I quit distracting me
So
with your
many
butt
sex
all the
jokes all
time.
coming.
God. Yeah, no, it's very needed, and like Eric said, there are a lot of people that hold their sexual hangups because they don't think of God in the bedroom. I mean, sometimes they'll shout it, but they don't think about God in the bedroom, and so.
I mean, because if it did, you would realize just how fucking creepy it is.
Well, your kink is not my kink, but your kink is okay, I think is a phrase that the show has introduced. But yeah, it's incredibly important. It's an aspect of almost every human being's life. Some people do not enjoy sex, and that is also fine. Your lack of a kink is not my kink, but that is also okay.
It still translates.
And
Yeah.
now I've mangled the phrase.
We'll go
But
with it.
what I will say is it's an important thing that needs to be addressed, and I don't see it being addressed anywhere else. And so I'm glad that one of the things that I could help have the ACA do is y'all's show. Damn. That was inadvertent.
All right, that's
He
enough,
wants to
Jamie,
do
for the
me,
show. Thank you,
know.
Jamie.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after. It's fine.
So, another reason we brought you guys here is because we have a fun game
Oh no.
Yeah, and
that
Jamie wants to hold on to his
Bring
crown
it.
after
Oh.
Really
absolutely
does.
Bring it.
dominating
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
vocab.
Yeah.
Sex vocab.
I brought a Lucky Charm though, so I'm ready.
Oh, yeah, you're ready.
That's right. Okay.
I'm ready.
Please
What is
introduce.
going to be your lucky charm?
You see, I was gifted for Bat Cruise weekend my own pair of Mormon underwear.
Wow,
And-
that's a very special gift.
I am so excited. I am so
He
excited.
is
Jamie,
so
let's bring
excited.
it.
I was going to say,
Let's bring it.
guaranteed to stop bullets,
I tried
not
to-
by us.
I tried to
but
wear it on my
someone is-
head. It didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
The
Didn't you
elastic
had that
is kind of.
whole like planned out. And
I know,
everything.
right?
Wait, what were
That's
you doing?
okay.
What's
I was gonna put the underwear on my head.
why didn't that work? What has happened? I've missed a thing. It's
That's
fine.
okay.
Whatever.
That's okay. We can talk after the show, Jamie.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yes,
You don't have to
this
tell me
sounds like
things.
something
You don't have to
that
do
we
this in
need
front of
to
the
do.
audience.
just-
Not in front
what-
of.
it's
not-
whatever.
it's
I'm
not
the
their show.
president. I'm
Do
supposed
you
to be
really
aware
wanna do
of
this in front of
things
them?
that are- yes,
I can't. You know what?
obviously, because there's
Yeah,
an
don't-
element
When
of
did we really
hilarity.
like the old
We
married
can take
couple?
this
You're
to
an old
Dr.
married
Brenner
couple.
later.
We've been working
Yes.
forever.
Don't
I
bring
don't
up.
need to-
Do not bring up Dr. Brenner
Okay.
in front of other people.
So,
Dr. Brenner's
what
not
Dr.
great.
Brenner said was, it's better if you don't see each other for the moment. So, let's put on who wants what.
Ooh, zebra.
Okay.
Okay.
So, the goal of the game is to guess the word.
Okay.
Isn't it?
This is basically, I think we can say the game name. It's basically taboo.
Okay.
So
Which may or may
Where's the
not be
mic? The mic
copyrighted, and we
is-
may or
hang
may
on,
not be
right
playing
there.
it.
we're
Okay.
Hold my hand. We'll make it through together.
Okay.
all right. So what I'm
Jamie,
going
I'm
to
scared.
It's okay.
what I'm going to do is I am going to read off words to you and try and get you guys to guess.
Okay.
Try and get you guys to guess a word. Only there's a list of words that I am not allowed to say, which is going to make this even more interesting. Although
Okay.
I have a feeling that Jamie's going to get the first one.
Okay, so wait, to be clear, there's something we're trying to guess and you have to describe it.
Yes.
And there's ways you can't-
without
okay.
using certain words.
So I've played this before. I don't know why I'm asking questions, but
Yeah, so you two
Matt, get
are
something
in
for me.
competition with one another.
Okay.
As is tradition here on Secular Sexuality, we will be keeping score using a collection of finger
Score.
cots.
get it.
So
what?
Megan will be. You're blindfolded. You don't know what a finger cot is, and you're real concerned right now. Is that what's going on?
Okay.
They're the little finger condoms that have been on the set for the last few weeks.
I'm willing to try things. I
Yes.
just need to be prepared.
He just
well,
needs to
and that
be
is what these are for, is to be
informed
prepared.
in order
I feel
to
like I have my back
consent.
to you, and I don't feel comfortable anymore.
He needs to
Okay.
be informed.
Not the first time I've heard that.
Well, so
Help me! Okay. Okay. Let's go.
So yes, I will
How are
be
you-
handing finger condoms to you guys, and you to keep score, you will have to put them on your hands. All right.
All right. Oh.
So
Wait. What?
No,
yes,
on your fingers. First to
you
10
get,
wins.
As
Okay.
you get the
Okay.
All right, ready?
Ready?
And let's do it.
Okay. 2 words.
Blowjob.
I remember him taking his mask off at a certain point.
Did I look at the screen? No. Was it blowjob?
It was blowjob.
Okay.
That'll be the first time I didn't get
You know,
Oh, I'm not even going near that one.
Don't. Go to the next one.
Okay.
Go to the next thing.
reigning champion.
Okay, so. Oh, really? I can't say that? Shit. Okay, so.
Threesome.
Form of literature?
Erotica.
Slash fic.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Jamie.
Erotica it is.
Jamie, hand.
Where?
Right. There. Okay.
Okay. Do I have to do something with it?
Put it on
Put it
your
on your
finger.
Ew. This is
safe.
weird.
Okay, so when you are not safe, the next day
Sexually
you
transmitted disease.
need
If the
to-
condom
B.
breaks,
Plan B.
Plan B.
well,
keep
also
going.
called
Plan B pill.
What? What do you mean plan
Does
B?
it rhyme
It's
with
the next
abortion?
day,
just abortion? Next day abortion.
you would take a Plan B the next day,
Supplement.
but it's also called
not at night.
Morning after pill.
There,
Hey!
there you go.
Jamie, you suck at this.
You're yelling into my ear. I can't think.
Okay,
oh.
so what usually
I don't think so well when there's a dick in my face.
Okay.
Just go. Just say the next one. It was a bad
Just keep
joke.
going.
Just go.
Keep right over it.
Shit. Okay, when you are it's the end.
Climax. Orgasm.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
Dick.
What is it?
It was orgasm. There you go.
All right. You suck at
Oh,
this.
really?
You suck
Okay.
at friendship. Oh, that was so brutal.
Was that to me or to him?
No, to him.
Oh, okay.
He was wrong.
Okay, so some women can do this, and
Maybe if you
Anything
were
I guess right now is
excited.
getting oral sex and then felt like you were drowning.
what?
Hey, it's not fair. It's squirting. Is it squirting?
yes,
Hey!
here.
I was gonna go. Oh.
Oh, you were drowning from the. Oh, okay. Because you were giving. All right. Cut off this. All right. I got this. Now I
he
get
put it together.
All right.
One of us is a
This-
cunning linguist.
Pineapple.
Fruit.
Red. These are
I know this, but I don't want to end the game.
terms that
Come
you
on,
would
Jamie.
utilize.
To keep your. He gave it to you. Just
Come on.
Safe
say it.
word.
Okay.
Wow, you're getting
love you,
pity
Jamie.
finger
See that?
cuts. That's just
Yeah,
And
I
after
don't-
being like
I
such a
don't
boss
want
on the
it.
last
I
getting
round.
don't want
pity-fingered?
it pity. I want it because I'm me. God. It's not the same.
Pineapple.
Yes.
Sea cucumber. Okay, go ahead.
Some gentlemen have difficulty finding this
G-spot.
difficulty.
Shit!
Yeah, there you go. G-spot it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
but no, I fucked
That
it up.
doesn't exist.
I fucked it up.
Is there?
No, I
Oh,
said
that's
it.
terrible. That's
Who's
what the
on their
show's
way?
for.
Who's on their way to the full 5? We got 4 and 2.
Two.
Oh wow,
I think.
Tammy, you're super far behind.
I got G-spot. I found the G-spot. I deserve a finger comment.
Are you sure
That's
about
how this works?
That's how this works.
Did he, Eric? Did he find it?
He found the G-spot.
Okay.
Okay, all
All
right,
right.
all
Well,
right.
now you've made it
Congratulations.
weird and personal.
All right. What?
Nothing.
These are garments that you might wear on a
Lingerie.
special occasion. Yeah, there you go.
Ah.
Hey,
We're
is it
at
4 to 4?
It is.
Is this the winning question right here?
Wait, really?
Yep.
All right, fuck you. Let's do this.
Now it's serious.
I thought I was so bad at
Okay.
this.
Game on. Let's do it.
All right.
Gay, mon.
What?
Just say that. Just ask the question.
Well, no, I'm actually
You
trying
guys
to think how
didn't
to phrase
see
this.
her reaction. She's trying really hard to ask the question.
I am. Okay,
Threesome.
so. No,
This is when you receive
the first one is what I call
you receive
it, not the other.
message potentially in the middle
Sext.
of the night.
Sext. Booty call.
Keep
Also
going.
called.
One night stand.
There is no
before-
other name
no,
for
before the one night stand happens. You
Oh.
get this communique.
booty call.
Not sex?
It's like a booty call.
It's like a booty call.
If it
and
is the
it's-
same thing
what
as a
would
booty
you
call.
say in a booty call text message? Something
Late
along the
at
lines of
I
late at night.
Sup, girl?
Do you want a Netflix and chill?
No, late at night, like when you're
late night
sleeping.
booty call.
Oh.
There,
What?
if it is a synonym for booty call, I am
Okay,
going to
2
contest
words.
the results of this.
2 words. What do you?
Booty call is 2 words.
No. 2. Okay.
What would you
Seriously?
text?
I would
Can we
text
call
the
this
I would
word
text
booty
you
call.
up.
You
It's a
up,
you up
it's,
text.
It's you up text. Like, are you up? You up?
Is the answer you're giving right
is the
now
answer
you
you
up?
Yeah, we're moving on to the
We're
next
moving, 'cause
one.
this one is so not
fuck
working.
is that?
I'm sorry. I challenged
okay,
this.
so,
Okay.
No,
well, nobody
yeah.
scored any
hold on.
points.
No, I got this one.
Eggplant
I got this
emoji, peach emoji.
That's what you would send
I-
at midnight is a eggplant emoji.
I'm so lonely.
Okay, so I got this one. What is it called when Hamish is very
Scottish.
concerned about a blood sacrifice?
Circumcision.
There you go.
There
you go.
And Eric takes it.
Yeah. He takes it. He gets the full 5 fingers.
He gets the full 5 fingers. Congratulations.
is that
I
the,
I think it might
Yes,
have
you
been
can-
the
you can
lucky
take the thing
underwear.
off, yes.
Right?
You can take it off.
I'm telling you. It is the Mormon power. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks really weird.
I think you may be the
I like
really
that you've been
weird.
wearing those without actually seeing what
you
they
may
look
be the
like.
first person to claim that Mormon underwear has helped you with sex. Actually,
That's a good one.
Actually, you know what? That is a rather weird and amazing rabbit hole to go down. There is an entire
porn?
kink
Yeah,
around.
I was gonna say
Undergarments. Yeah.
rabbit
Yeah.
hole's a slang term I'd not heard before. But
No. Just
have-
the
what?
whole Mormon and sex. Don't. No.
Cottontail.
Don't.
I feel like we could riff on this for a while.
I don't encourage him.
I feel like you guys could probably last for a while.
but we're hoping that this show goes on for years and years.
And years.
And provides
It just goes on and
invaluable
on.
communication on and on.
With
Education.
repeated,
Education.
continuous high points, whatever.
I need an adult. I think I'm good.
Well, thank you guys.
Pineapple. Red.
Pineapple.
All right.
Red.
Thank you for joining us. And
Thank you for-
if you want to
thank
keep
you
your
for
finger
having
cocks,
us.
you can keep them. But if
Just remember, we don't reuse our condoms.
yeah,
Yeah, don't do that.
don't reuse condoms. According to the CDC, that's a bad idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is a thing they had to say.
Twice.
So have
Twice.
have fun, everybody.
See ya.
Hey,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming on.
And one
Sex.
another word from Daryl Ray.
I hope to carry the torch well. Are you worried in any way?
No, I trust you guys so much. You've had such great experience. I mean, I'm an amateur compared to you. I really am. So why would I have not had a worry. My only curiosity was, what kind of a format will you end up with? You're ended up with a better format than I ever dreamed of. So, hell no.
So you do like the 45 minutes of various segments and then the 45 minutes of live calls.
Yeah, I think that's great. I do hope you do some interviews because I think you're going to get some cool stuff from that. I also hope, and I have no expectations, but I do hope you'll go back and pick up some of the old interviews I did because there's information there and there's emotion there that are going to be hard to capture in the new format.
Yes.
And it's good stuff. So
it is. And I know that we have those back recordings, and I do know that we are planning to do something with them.
Okay, good.
So we are definitely going to keep those in and keep it, try and keep the history of the show up and continue to bring it back.
Yeah, good.
And of course, some of the old guests that you had.
I'm going to help you get those old guests back on.
I would love to have some of those guests back on.
Yeah.
We've actually met some of them here at the party.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So.
You have met some of them, haven't you? I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You met April. That's her name that's her pseudonym in the podcast. But you met April. You know how much fun she is, and she has a story to tell. You don't want to miss that.
No.
So. And there's so many. You're going to get a lot of good stories. And I think the call-in format. See, I didn't have any of that. So you have that call-in format. That's going to have people engaged in ways that I could never do. So
that should be awesome. I think.
I think it will be.
And I look forward to having you back on the show with us so that you can continue to have fun with the podcast, but like you said, not have to worry about the scheduling and the editing and all of the time that goes into it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think I'm not the world's expert, but I do have an angle on secularism and sexuality that nobody else is talking about. In my book, Sex and God really addresses that. No other book's ever done that. And so I hope I can continue to bring that angle back.
Oh, I would love it. I love it if you would.
So I think it's an angle nobody's really explored. And that's why I wrote the book. But that's not the purpose of the podcast, to promote my books. Although you can all you want.
I have no problems with promoting your book.
Well, good. Always glad to hear that.
Hello and welcome back. All right, so we are going to take calls. If you want to call in either today or any other, let's see here, next Sunday or Thursdays at 7, the number to call is 512-686-0279. And each episode we do will be topical, but feel free to call in with any questions or suggestions or topics you may have on the front of your mind.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we'd love to hear from you through email, which is sex@atheist-community.org. And, next week we're going to be talking in particular about FetLife, particularly your great experiences, your bad experiences. We would love to hear from you.
And I will, as we previously discovered, the most vanilla person on the face of the planet, will be filling out a FetLife profile, and we'll have some screenshots from that wonderful experience to amuse everyone. So we also have a Patreon, which is Patreon/Secular Sexuality. If anyone wants to help us ramble more.
Looking for a podcast version or want to just participate in the show.
All right, so on to calls. I'm thinking, let's see here. Allison in Canada would like to talk about asexuality. Allison, you are on with Megan and Christy.
Howdy.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Hi, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm actually on the show.
Yep. So you wanted to talk to us about asexuality?
I do. I mean, I would. I've never really before. In fact, I will have to admit that I think the term is ace they use. I just realized yesterday that I am one.
Okay, well, congratulations on that self-discovery. It sounds very fresh.
I mean, I've always known that I don't like sex. I mean, I never have. It's never appealed to me. It's just never been an interest. I've had at least 5 different serious romantic relationships, and sex for me was never part of that. I mean, it was for them, but definitely made relationships challenging. And I don't know anybody else. I mean, I've tried to explain how I feel towards sex to everybody I know, and no one gets it. To be honest, I'm not even really sure I get it. But over the last week or so, I've kind of been looking into it, and I found this one great site is called Avon. And for anyone that's wondering if they might be asexual, it's a real thing. And it turns out there is nothing wrong with you or me. It's just the way that I am. I've been this way my whole life. So I think it's important that people understand that, because it is really hard to explain to someone when you just lack a sexual desire or need or interest at all. I mean, it's just, there's nothing there.
Yep. Christy, you are more of the expert on this, though I am aware of and familiar with the term. Maybe you can give us a better kind of primer for our audience on what asexuality is.
Yeah, it suffers from a branding issue, if I can say that. That feels like such a weird way to look at our humanity. But we talk in terms about, he's got a healthy libido. I mean, that's maybe the way we throw away terms when we talk about somebody's sex drive. And the higher the better is sort of the way that we've all been taught and explained. And, certainly there are things that can interfere with our natural libidos. If you experience some form of trauma or you go through these different experiences that maybe you just don't enjoy the partners that are around you, the people that you've met. And so that can hamper our sexuality, but that's not the same thing.
Some medication as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so when somebody's in that type of experience, we want to ask the question of, what can we do to help if somebody's wanting to change their libido or to see that maybe better reflect who they are as a person. And so because we so often come at things from that sort of epidemiological
thinking
direction,
that there's something wrong.
Right, like we're trying to solve a problem and we're trying to run it to ground and we're trying to ask people like Allison, well, what happened to you? Who hurt you? What can we change about you to fix you? And that is completely missing the boat of your experience. I don't know you. I don't know your story, and maybe there is some trauma in your background, but none of that needs to have anything to do with how you identify, whether it's as asexual or demisexual or maybe highly sexual. And I'm wondering what it's been like for the past, week, 24 hours as you embrace that about yourself.
Well, when I first heard the term or discovered the term asexuality, I mean, I understood it as just a lack, almost like how atheism is a lack of a belief in God, where asexuality is like a lack of a sexual drive. And I've just never had that. I mean, I could go back many years and think of maybe some traumas that, might have encouraged that type of thinking, I suppose. But then, as I got older and more mature, and I think they call it a heterosexual, hetero attraction. I mean, I find myself physically attracted to men, but there's no sexual desire. I mean, I have no interest in that part, but I do like intimacy and being close. So I have had relationships. Some good, some bad, but it all, sexually speaking, I mean, it all just feels the same. There's nothing, and people tell me that, you've had a bad relationship, so you just haven't found the right person yet. And when you find the right person, everything's going to change for you. Well, I fell in love with a man a few years ago, at least 5 years ago, and he was wonderful, and he was perfect, and he was everything that I wanted. And he had an extremely high sex drive. It was all the time, every time, and every day. And I just never had that. I mean, it's like I was connected to him on every level except with sex. And even though we had it, it was pretty much for him and not for me.
Right.
And it was really hard to explain that to him, especially since his sex drive was so, I don't know. For me, it was over the top. Maybe it was normal. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But it's definitely been confusing. That's why it always comes down to, is there something wrong with me? And it's funny because when I say that, people are like, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with you. But then they go into it, it'll work out this way, or, you just find someone else. It's like they just don't get it. By them saying, oh, this is going to happen, even though I know it won't, it's like they are saying that there is something wrong with me, because it's not, to them it's not normal that I just don't have a sex drive or that I never will.
Right.
And it's just really hard to make people understand that this is what it is. I mean, I'm just very accepting it myself. I didn't want to. I think I was afraid. I don't know anyone. I'm afraid of that. Now that I know and that I accepted it, it's a really tiny piece of the population. I mean, from what I've read and learned just over the past week, it's like maybe 1% of the population. And I live in a city of 17,000 people, so there could possibly be 170 people in this town that are like me. And I don't know who they are, so it just makes connecting on a romantic level really challenging. And I think it's important that people should know that just because we don't like sex, it doesn't mean we don't want to be close to people and, be kissed and cuddled and touched, because
Intimacy.
I absolutely love all those things. But for me, that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that people often miss, is that being asexual doesn't make you aromantic. And it is possible to be the opposite, to be aromantic and still have a very high sexuality. But yeah, if what you're saying is true, there might be 170 people, and, I wonder how many of them even know that about themselves. If you're just now coming to this point where you're having permission and the right information to be able to acknowledge that about yourself, I wonder how many people around you are in the same or a similar situation. It's a tough spot to be in, especially in a small town, especially when there's so few people talking openly and honestly about different ways to be human.
Absolutely. I think that is the biggest thing, is that for some reason sex is like you guys were saying before, it's all around us, but we're not allowed to talk about it. I mean, it's really taboo even in my family. I mean, I'm an atheist, and the majority of them are Christian, but they don't care that I'm an atheist. They really don't care. But when it comes to things like sex, there's all these biases about, I see it in them, that even them accepting the existence of the LBGD alphabet community, I call them, even they have trouble accepting, that there are people that are, bisexual or gay or pansexual. And it's like, if they can't even understand that, it's like, how the heck are they going to understand that there's a lack thereof,
Sure.
And for them, it's like everyone's set in this mind frame of, you got to get married and you got to find the perfect man or the perfect woman, and that's just the way that it is. And I know that for my family, a lot of that comes from the religious, the Christianity that they're a part of. So, and the worst is they're like, because I'm 34, and I've always dreamed of having a family. And the women in my family, Mr. Allison, sorry, I'm really nervous. Heck, what was I saying? Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Okay.
We definitely wish you luck in sorting through all of this. And again, congratulations on recognizing this about yourself and embracing who you are. And
it's a step.
Yeah, it is, and it can be a difficult one. Certainly we wish you the best, and I hope that it's a smooth transition. But I would encourage you to seek out a sex-positive therapist or some other organizations that, there are a number of different meetup groups and people who share that experience. And I would encourage you to be in community. You might not feel like you're in a place where you need that, and I definitely support that. But I think there will likely come a time when you want to be able to talk about and share these experiences with somebody who not just appreciates you, but who understands it and recognizes it in themselves. And there's a lot of great resources out there I hope you'll take a look at.
Absolutely. I mean, I know I have already started, like I had mentioned Avon before, so I just started reaching out there today. And I got in touch. There is a local LGBTQ community where I live. And as far as I know, it's very small, but I mean, it's still there. So I reached out today, and they've given me a couple of resources, so I'm just going to keep looking. But yeah, no, it's great. I do feel a sense of relief now that I've accepted it. I'm like, this is what I am. And that's all I can be.
Well,
hey, well, congratulations.
Yeah. Anyway,
good luck.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, of course.
And I'll listen in. I think the show is a great idea. So I'll be.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, that was definitely, I think, an important topic that we can address again some other episode. I think asexuality is definitely an interesting and often overlooked area of the rainbow, shall we say.
Absolutely. And again, I would encourage people to write in, to send us those emails about the topics that you'd like us to cover as we're moving forward.
So I think, did you have a preference? Because I was going to go with...
yeah, that sounds like a great conversation.
Okay.
Let's talk to Wes.
Let's talk to Wes. Wes is wanting to talk about if there's scientific support or opposition for homosexuality. Wes, you are on with Megan and Christy.
Howdy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, what kind of questions did you have, Wes?
I was wondering if I don't really have an opinion on the topic of homosexuality, but I mean, I believe that, whether or not it is right, you shouldn't discriminate against someone who is, but I was just wondering if there's, evidence to support either way.
Yeah, I mean, let me try and clarify your question, because if the question is homosexuality a thing, I think that a very quick Google search will prove
yes.
that it does exist. So clearly, I think there's enough scientific evidence to prove that gay people are gay. But are you asking maybe if that's okay, if that's right, if that's biologically relevant? What is it that you're wondering? Because I'd love to try and clarify any misconceptions that people have.
Yeah.
I guess I was just wondering about the right or wrongness of it.
From what perspective? Are you looking from a natural perspective or a theoretically moral perspective?
I guess biologically.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, biologically, is birth control okay? Is masturbation okay? Is literally any form of sexual expression that doesn't immediately lead to pregnancy okay?
Yes.
Yes. I think that's the very short answer.
Very short answer, yes.
And the question comes down to where are you coming from and what are you looking for? I think that I feel comfortable speaking for Megan and for the ACA simply in expressing the idea that if something is enjoyable, if it's pleasurable, if it's adding to the net positive experience of humanity, then it's a good and beautiful thing, so long as it's not hurting somebody else. If it's making your day or somebody else's day better, then it's great. And when I say it and the doing of things, what I'm talking about is maybe acting on or performing a homosexual act or something along those lines. I'm certainly not even talking about whether or not people are gay, whether or not people are attracted to the same gender or the same sex, which is a complicated question in of itself. But in very, very short terms, I can't imagine a good goddamn reason why homosexuality wouldn't be okay. And even if we for somehow could empirically prove with math and science
One way
and
or the
magic
other.
that it was somehow wrong to act on homosexuality, that's not going to change the fact that there are millions upon millions of gay people in this country. So,
let alone the world.
yeah, no question.
And I generally subscribe to the idea of if it's consensual and it's safe, have fun. I mean, do you and others as y'all see fit.
Yeah, so I hope that clears things up a little bit. I do appreciate you giving us a call in. Yeah, who are we looking at next?
Let's see here. We are looking at,
Yeah.
all right, Stephen in Virginia wants to discuss the expectation placed on men to give oral sex. Stephen, you are on the air with Megan and Christy.
This feels pretty topical.
Yeah,
Tell
so-
us a little bit about what's on your mind.
So, for me, I've tried going down on women before, and for me, like my reaction, like my body reacts by gagging, and it's really I've really gotten some weird things from people about it, like, oh, you'll never really please a woman and stuff like that unless you give oral. And to me, it's really strange that there's this really weird, almost like rapey vibe that people get whenever you say you don't give oral. Like it's some sort of expectation, or that you're somehow lesser for not performing oral.
Yeah, I think that it's a tricky spot to be in on account of the fact that I think if we sit down and we look at it, everybody is going to pretty quickly come to an agreement that nobody of either gender should be expected to perform or participate in a sex act that makes them physically nauseous, that makes them uncomfortable, that doesn't spark their libido in any way. But we're also in a moment where women are having permission to embrace their sexuality and to ask for the things that they want, and men who have always felt comfortable doing that and have almost always been pleasured in that way are now feeling like, oh my God, I have to actually be a not selfish lover and I have to give back. And so that does create this cultural backlash where we want to say, okay, well, men need to act, or well, really more that women are allowed now to act the way that men have been acting.
I was going to say, I wanted to push back a little bit on, as you said, the expectation of men to give oral, because speaking as a female, there is definitely also an expectation for women to give oral, and the same, shall we say, gag reflex issues apply, I think, to both male and female.
I think is
yes.
worth mentioning. Yeah.
And so I think maybe rather than it being a just, men giving oral or women giving oral, I think it's more of a, there are women who do not want to give oral. There are men who do not want to give oral. There are some people who don't like anal. There are people who don't like French, kissing with tongue. There are people who don't like being sex.
wrapped up in leather and chained to a couch. But there are people who do. And so, yeah, it's about being able to communicate your wants and needs without putting an expectation on somebody else that they do something because they're women and they're expected to.
Right.
And
men and expected to.
Right, exactly. But unfortunately, we're in a cultural moment where we're still really parsing that out.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think maybe this is also where that conversation comes into play, the conversation with your partner about, okay, what do you want? All right, what do I want? All right, what are we both okay with? And what middle happy ground can we come to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about negotiation. It's about, expressing, okay, this is not something that I'm open to. This is a hard limit for me. But also making sure you're doing so in a way that isn't entitled.
Mm. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for your call.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have a couple, and I'm wondering if you want that or that. I think he's been on a little.
Yeah. Let's talk to Stephen.
Okay, Stephen. This time, Stephen in California wants to discuss sexual identity versus gender identity. Stephen, you are on with Megan and Christy. Stephen.
Hey, hope to hear from you next time.
Yeah.
Feel free to send us an email. Sorry we missed you.
Appear to be having their audio issues with that, but if you want to call back, please, by all means. All right, I think I want to take, okay, let's go with Eddie from Brooklyn. He is on the line and wants to discuss atheistic perspective of alternative lifestyles. Eddie.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I recently became an atheist myself.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Just technically, I used to be Catholic and Christian, and if I can say this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, I got sick and tired of the hypocrisy and the bullshit.
Sure.
In the immortal words of George Carlin, who was a former atheist comedian.
Yes.
And basically now, because of that religious programming and dogma and indoctrination that they brainwashed and mind-controlled a lot of people with, where sexuality is taboo and all these different alternative relationships and, different lifestyles is a no-no, because now you're trying to undo that programming because, for like LGBT and like, I guess you could say polyamory or BDSM or kink or swinger lifestyle, they would use words like wicked, devilish, sinful, immoral, evil. And we would, and basically those are hatred divisive man-made words that they created. And basically I'm trying to get rid of that terminology and replace it with something else as an atheist. So do we have a great maybe replacement, or we just look at it as loving and accepting and look at it as normal and moral?
From an atheist perspective, would say just acceptance. It is a spectrum. It is all a spectrum, and no matter where you fall on that spectrum, that doesn't mean that you are unnatural, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means you fall somewhere outside what most of society considers to be, the norm, but that doesn't really mean anything because I think we all fall outside to some degree of what is considered the norm.
So in other words, in alternative relationships and different sexual orientation or alternative lifestyles, there's always going to be two sides of the coin, meaning if some are going to say it's moral, some are going to say it's not moral.
I think that you are always going to have people agreeing and disagreeing on any topic, whether it's sex, religion, politics, what color bath towels to buy.
The best Starburst?
Watermelon.
It's yellow.
No.
It's yellow.
No, pink. Nope. See, I think we're never going to 100% agree on anything. And it's definitely one of the more divisive topics.
Yeah, and I think what I was maybe hearing you ask a little bit is about terminology, right? About just the vocabulary and coming to a place of comfort with that. I would say that the term alternative lifestyle has, a negative history. That kind of seems like the way that Pat Robertson might have described somebody who was gay in the 80s. But in order to get to that place, there's not, I can't give a short word I will say that we've, talked about vocabulary a lot on this show, and we'll continue to. And I think the best way to become comfortable or to reach a place of comfort in that topic is by not just watching shows like this one, but being just surrounded by basically queer culture. It is watching queer movies. It's listening to this show and a number of great podcasts that address gender and sexuality, and sort of immersing yourself the same way that's true of any culture. If I were to walk into a comic book store right now and pretend to be super big into Pokemon, I think I would be pretty quickly revealed to have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Because even if I recognize the general concepts, there are words that exist in that community that are just beyond me due to total lack of exposure. And they might embrace and welcome me and introduce me to their game. And it would take a little while through exposure to become comfortable with the jargon and just the way that they communicate with one another. And I think that we maybe don't all need to get super into card games and things along those lines, but we have a
Pikachu. Sorry.
But I do think we have a responsibility as human beings to do at least the bare minimum of becoming acquainted with and familiar with the way other folks live and express themselves, and to be asking people in those communities, how do you identify? What word suits you? How do you describe yourself? And to be deferential to that.
Well, let me tell you something funny. Me, because since leaving religious dogmatic, labels and all that stuff, because those are hateful, judgmental words that they use for LGBTQ and different alternative orientation or relationships or lifestyles. I'm just exploring as an atheist now my godless, hedonistic side, if you know what that means.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I identify myself as, sort of relating to that ethical hedonism viewpoint that, as Megan is always saying, if it's safe, if it's consensual, if it feels good, that's the litmus test. If it passes those three questions, there's really not a whole lot of reason not to dive into it. And so we would encourage you to spend some time with that and to see what clicks.
I mean, look, let me put it to you this way. I'll give you a very quick example. Let's say we take pornography. And, okay, I watch pornography. Other people do it for a living, or do prostitution, or are strippers, or are escorts, whatever have you say. Now, from an atheistic view, and I'm sure you've heard of somebody called godless bitches.
Nope, never heard of it. No, that's a joke.
Well, no,
yes, of course we have heard of it.
Yeah, believe we have their mug right there.
Yes.
Right. So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, if somebody who watches pornography or does pornography for a living, from an atheistic viewpoint, would we put a label on it like religion does, or we just don't put a label?
Well, if the person involved in the pornography is not in distress in any way and is making informed choices, and more power to them.
Yeah, being an atheist doesn't mean not being discriminatory. And what I mean by that is not that we go around judging people with the moral shame of an ancient book. We still have permission to point out things that are shitty in this world, whether it's political, whether it's social. I mean, we have a moral responsibility as people to point out what's wrong about our planet and to do what we can to change it. And so if somebody is being hurt, abused, trafficked, robbed, ripped off, objectified, damaged in some way, we have an obligation to see that and then to do something about it. But to just quickly circle back to your question, I don't see that any of those things are happening just because somebody chooses to do sex work in some way. Yeah, absolutely. Now, all of those issues are concerns in the pornography world, but they don't define the pornography world.
Right.
I mean, I was reading some articles on Google, and a lot of Americans say that pornography is morally becoming acceptable, even though a lot of people don't want to admit it. What do you think of that?
I think that means that us and people like us are doing a great job.
Yep.
And God knows there's a whole lot more that we need to do.
Yes.
Well, look, it's better than watching like a movie that does killing and violence, where pornography, as long as it's consensual and not hurting anybody and consensual, is way better than somebody murdering and killing or whatever, or raping.
I would have to say that each type of film has its place in society.
Yeah, I think that we're at the hour and a half mark, so I don't know that we have enough time to break down the value of all of art.
Yes.
But we do appreciate you calling in. I do just want to say that if it is safe, consensual, and brings pleasure, we support it.
I just want to quickly say one thing, very quickly, and I hope you guys are very successful with your show.
Thank you.
Because you guys started a great thing and a great discussion, because I think we should discuss this, and maybe we could shed some light and maybe make people's lives better. But my philosophy is this, is do what thou shalt wilt that makes you happy. And as long as you're not hurting or harming somebody, I think that's the best philosophy to adopt as an atheist.
Ethical hedonism for the win.
Well, thank you,
so
Eddie.
much for giving us a call, Eddie.
And we are on to our last caller of the evening, who believes that there are only two genders. This is Josh in Missouri. Josh, you are on with Megan and Christy.
Boy, have I got news for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, not too bad. Thanks for giving us a call.
No problem. I was told that this is your guys' first show.
Yes.
This is our big premiere.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been
big premiere, right? Okay, well, definitely
grand
look at that.
reopening.
Right. Okay. So basically, yes, I do believe that there are only two genders. I'm not completely stuck with that assertion yet, because I don't know. I'm open to have my mind changed. Definitely, I'm a liberal for the most part. I'm pretty anti-Trump, all that stuff. But I've always had a problem with that, with people saying, okay, there's only two, there's more than two genders. I was always sort of confused about that sort of thing. And as an atheist, I kind of like to think about everything from a scientific perspective. And scientifically, I just don't really see how there could be anything more than just two genders. So I'm going to have my mind changed.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
you go right ahead.
Okay. So when you think these constructs, the idea of there only being two genders, this, of course, is something that you were brought up with, yes?
No.
No? This is something you came to on your own?
Both my parents are liberal, and my mom and sister are feminists. So.
Okay. So when you think about gender, you think there's just the two options and they're polar opposites of each other, right?
Yeah, I guess you could put it that way, sure.
Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about gender as a scale. Think of it as a sliding scale. On one end of the scale, you may have what we would classically consider female. And on the other end of the scale, you would have what we classically consider to be male. Now, move that dial around a bit.
Okay.
There's not 2, and there's not 3, and there's not 5. Everyone, I think, is at a different place on that scale.
You can parse that line out for all 7 billion people on the planet.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you say that you're coming from a scientific and biological perspective, and to keep it very brief, I would encourage you to read some science, read some biology, because you'll find that once you get away from the cultural stuff and you actually get into the nitty-gritty of the science, shit gets cray. There's
like
a lot
Uber.
more going on, and to say that from a biological scientific standpoint that there are only two sexes is to dramatically misunderstand how genetics works. And I am a liberal arts major. I'm not properly
As am I.
qualified to parse all of that out, but I can tell you very clearly that there are arguments against the gender, for and against the gender binary, but the simplified genetics one is not one that holds any real clout in the scientific community. And I feel like that's a very strong consensus. We can talk about right and wrong, social, moral, cultural, but to come at it from a scientific, empirical standpoint, suggesting that genetically speaking, there are only two options, is to have a very flawed understanding of how basic genetics and biology operates.
Okay. Have you guys ever seen, do you guys know who Steven Crowder is?
Sorry, say that name again.
Steven Crowder?
Not
I
familiar
can't
myself.
say that I know.
Okay, well, he made a video about I thought was pretty good. He basically asked, he said in biology classrooms across the country, we teach that that you're born with 10 fingers, 10 toes, and everything like that. But there
Not
are...
everyone.
I know, that's the thing. There are cases where people are not born with 10 fingers. Some are born with 9, 11, or something like that. But for the most part, we teach that you are born with 10 fingers or 10 toes, because that is how the majority of people are born into this world. And you can sit there all day long and say, okay, well, there are people who they have, genitalia that, I've heard of cases where there have been people who have no genitalia or both a vagina and a penis. So you could say, okay, well, how could you say that this person is not both a male and or a female? But when we teach that, that the majority of people are born a certain way, then yes, that's how. Shouldn't that be like the?
So you're saying that because most people fall under two genders, that all people fall under two genders?
I believe that is just an argument from popularity, or
Yeah, it's super simplified. That's not really embracing the science of it.
No, and just because the population of one variation or variant might be smaller does not make it in any way invalid or wrong.
Right. Well, I've always thought of it as
Shout out to
like a mental stance more than a physical or biological stance, right? If you think that you are a female or you think that you are a male when you're not, that doesn't automatically mean, okay, yes, you are, because your genetics are set a certain way and you have certain features of you that make you male or female. Determine that. I could, let me ask you this. Why aren't you 80? Why aren't you 80 years old?
Because
I'm hoping one day I will
haven't
be.
been on the planet for 80 years. That's what we call truth by definition. A foot has 12 inches in it, not because it biologically evolved that way, not because God said that it was, but because we all just sort of agreed that a foot is 12 inches. I haven't been on this planet for 80 years because we all sort of agreed that a year is a measurement of time, that it covers this certain span.
And I think we're mixing two things up here in this conversation, which is sex versus gender. They are two very different things. Oftentimes, I think they do get kind of
they
put
tend
together.
to correlate, but they aren't the same thing by any means, and they're not a directly related construct.
Right, and so I think maybe then looking at it two genders or two sexes, or either way, there's more than two of both of those things.
Okay. So I hope that clears some things up, and I hope that you will dive in a little bit. And I would more than anything encourage you to take this very academic debate and put it in a human place, because I don't think that there's a lot of scientific grounding for what you're suggesting. But I think even more so when you start talking to people who identify as non-binary or who identify as transgender or have a gender and sexuality that aren't perfectly mapped out together in a linear trajectory as we assume that they do from a society standpoint, that you'll begin to recognize that it really does start to fall apart. It's very difficult to look somebody in the eye and to hear their story and come at them with what is honestly very flawed science.
And very dismissive of their own experiences, which just because their experiences do differ from yours does not make them invalid.
Right. Okay. Well, I just I encourage you to watch that video. I don't agree.
Feel
with
free to
most
drop it in the
because
comments
I think
on the
he's an idiot.
YouTube channel, or send it to us in an email. We'd love to continue the conversation even as we are wrapping up.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
Josh.
great day.
Well, I think for a first episode, I think that went pretty well.
I had a good time. I hope you did.
Oh, for sure.
And,
again, live studio audience.
We're always eager to keep the conversation going. So as I've said, please send us your emails, drop us your comments, check out our Patreon. We're all over on social media. It's all right there on the
Links in the
YouTube
show
channel.
notes.
And we'd love to hear from you.
And with that, would you like to take us out, or would you like me to?
Well, we saw a little bit from Daryl Ray, and I would just like to remind everybody of his maxim.
His catchphrase.
Now that you're done watching the show, we hope that you'll all go home, give yourself an orgasm, or
give
better
someone
yet,
else.
give somebody else one. Thank y'all so much.